Most people spend their entire lives fighting reality without realizing it. They wake up already tense, thinking about what could go wrong, trying to control how others see them, trying to avoid discomfort, trying to force life into the shape they want. But the harder the mind tries to control everything, the heavier life becomes. The ancient Stoics understood something most people still miss today. Peace does not come from controlling the world. It comes from learning how to stop fighting what already exists. Every emotion you feel, every uncomfortable thought, every moment of uncertainty becomes painful, mainly because the mind resists it. A difficult feeling appears, and instantly the mind says, "This shouldn't be happening. I need to fix this. I can't feel like this." And from that moment, suffering begins. Not because of the feeling itself, but because of the war against it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That single realization can change your entire life. Because most anxiety comes from trying to control things that were never yours to control. Other people's opinions, future outcomes, unexpected problems, the behavior of others. The Stoics never promised a life without difficulty. They taught something far more powerful: how to remain steady even when life becomes chaotic. And that begins with a simple shift. Instead of asking, "How do I control everything?" you begin asking, "How do I respond wisely to what happens?" That question changes everything. Because real strength is not domination. It is inner stability. And once you stop fighting every uncomfortable moment, you finally create space for peace to appear naturally. Most people believe happiness is somewhere in the future, after more money, after success, after recognition, after finally becoming enough. But the mind has a dangerous habit. Every time it achieves something, it immediately creates another condition for happiness. You finally reach one goal, and suddenly another appears. The cycle never ends. Seneca warned about this centuries ago. He who is never satisfied is truly poor. The problem is not ambition. The problem is believing your peace depends on achievement. Because when happiness becomes dependent on external outcomes, your emotional state becomes fragile. One failure destroys confidence. One rejection destroys motivation. One delay creates frustration. The Stoics understood that desire becomes dangerous when it turns into psychological dependence. You can pursue goals without attaching your identity to them. That is freedom. You can work hard without allowing success or failure to define your worth. That is strength. Most people are not exhausted because they work too hard. They are exhausted because their mind constantly says, "I'll finally be okay when..." And that sentence never ends. The Stoic path teaches something different. You act with purpose. You improve yourself. You pursue meaningful goals. But your inner stability does not depend on the outcome. Because the moment peace depends on external validation, you give the world control over your emotions. True freedom begins when you realize nothing external can permanently complete you. And strangely, the moment you stop desperately chasing happiness, you start feeling lighter. Have you noticed something strange about the mind? The more you try not to think about something, the more it returns. The more you resist anxiety, the stronger it feels. The more you fight sadness, the longer it stays. This is one of the deepest psychological truths the Stoics understood. Resistance feeds suffering. Most emotions are temporary by nature. They rise, they peak, and eventually fade. but resistance traps them. The mind keeps checking. Is it gone yet? Why do I still feel this? How do I make it disappear? And that constant attention gives the emotion more power. Epictetus explained, men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them. The feeling itself is rarely the biggest problem. The judgment about the feeling creates most of the suffering. What if discomfort isn't proof that something is wrong? What if it's simply part of being human? The Stoic approach is not emotional suppression. It is emotional observation. You notice the feeling without becoming controlled by it. You allow it to exist without panic. And when you stop feeding resistance into the experience, the mind slowly relaxes. This does not mean emotions disappear instantly. It means you stop turning temporary discomfort into permanent suffering. There is enormous power in simply observing your thoughts without reacting immediately. That pause creates freedom, because between stimulus and reaction, your character is revealed. Human beings crave certainty. We want guarantees, predictability, perfect outcomes. But life has never worked that way. No matter how carefully you plan, unexpected things happen. People change, situations collapse, loss arrives without warning. And yet most suffering comes from demanding certainty from an uncertain world. The Stoics divided life into two categories: what you can control and what you cannot. You control your actions, your values, your decisions, your mindset. You do not control other people, the future, external outcomes, unexpected events. Most anxiety comes from confusing these two categories. The mind exhausts itself trying to manage what was never fully controllable. But peace begins the moment you stop demanding guarantees from life. This doesn't mean becoming passive. It means directing energy wisely. A disciplined mind focuses on effort, not obsession over results. Because results are never fully yours. But character always is. And once you understand that, life becomes lighter. Many people spend their lives trying to be approved by others. They adjust their personality, hide their truth, seek attention, crave recognition. But validation is addictive. The more you depend on it, the less stable you become. Because now, your self-worth depends on reactions outside your control. One compliment makes you feel valuable. One criticism destroys your confidence. That is emotional slavery. The Stoics believed self-respect must come from within, not from applause, not from popularity, not from external praise. Because public opinion changes constantly. Today they admire you. Tomorrow they judge you. If your peace depends on approval, your peace will never last. Real confidence appears when you stop performing for acceptance, when you no longer need everyone to agree with you, when your actions align with your values instead of your fear. That is freedom. And ironically, people often respect you more when you stop desperately trying to impress them. Most people rarely experience the present moment fully. Their body is here, but their mind lives somewhere else. Thinking about tomorrow, replaying the past, imagining problems, and because of that, life passes unnoticed. The Stoics practiced returning attention to the present, not because the present is always pleasant, but because reality only exists here. Anxiety usually lives in the future. Regret usually lives in the past, but clarity lives in the present moment. When you stop mentally escaping life, you begin noticing its depth. Simple moments feel richer. A conversation, silence, breathing, sunlight through a window, Presence changes experience, not because life becomes perfect, but because attention becomes clear. The mind no longer wastes energy fighting imaginary futures, and in that stillness, peace naturally grows. Most people think letting go means weakness, but the Stoics saw it differently. Attachment creates fear. The more tightly you cling to outcomes, the more fragile you become. You fear loss, failure, rejection. But when you loosen attachment, something powerful happens. You become calmer under pressure, because your identity is no longer chained to results. You still act, you still care, you still try. But desperation disappears. That changes everything. A calm mind performs better than an anxious one. A detached mind sees clearly, and clarity creates better decisions. Freedom from attachment does not destroy ambition. It purifies it. You pursue goals because they matter, not because your worth depends on them. That is inner strength. Overthinking creates the illusion of control. The mind believes, if I think long enough, I'll avoid pain. But endless analysis rarely creates peace. It creates paralysis. Most overthinking comes from fear. Fear of mistakes. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of judgment. The Stoics believed wisdom requires action, not endless mental conflict. At some point, thinking becomes avoidance. And the more you obsess over every possibility, the more disconnected you become from reality itself. Life cannot be fully solved in advance. It must be lived directly. A calm mind responds to life. An anxious mind tries to predict everything. One creates clarity, the other creates exhaustion. Sometimes peace comes not from finding answers, but from finally stopping the endless mental noise. Stoicism is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming steady. Over time, small changes begin happening inside you. You react less impulsively. You observe more carefully. You stop taking every discomfort personally. Situations that once overwhelmed you now feel manageable, not because life became easier, but because your relationship to life changed. You stop expecting perfection. You stop demanding certainty. You stop needing constant validation. And slowly, inner freedom begins to emerge. The Stoics understood that peace is not something you achieve once forever. It is something practiced daily. A continuous return to awareness, discipline, and perspective. The transformation is quiet, but powerful. At some point, you realize something profound. The peace you were searching for was never hidden in achievement. It was hidden beneath resistance, beneath expectation, beneath compulsive striving, beneath the constant need to control everything. The moment you stop forcing life, clarity begins to appear. You still face problems. You still experience pain. You still encounter uncertainty. But now, you are no longer at war with reality. And that changes the entire experience of living. The Stoics understood that happiness cannot be forced. It emerges naturally when the mind stops fighting what already is. Like sleep, peace arrives when control relaxes. Not through obsession, not through endless striving, but through acceptance, awareness, and deliberate action. So continue improving yourself. Continue acting with purpose, but stop attaching your worth to outcomes beyond your control. Because life becomes lighter the moment you release what was never yours to carry. And perhaps that is the deepest form of freedom, to stand calmly in the middle of uncertainty without losing yourself. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to Stoic Journal and continue building a stronger, calmer, and more disciplined mind.